All right, so good afternoon, everybody. I am excited to bring to you today the fourth, I cannot believe it, the group mentoring session, our Communability DINC group mentoring session number 4. And wanted to just take a few minutes to welcome those that have not joined us in the past. I know we've got a number of folks on today's recording and webinar with us that may not have been with us in the past. We have mentors from the business community. We have some of our mentees with us. We also have our career advocates. A few of those are represented here today, and you're going to hear from them in just a minute. But just again, want to invite you to engage with us. Use the chat box today so that you can have conversation with each other. There may be questions or comments that you want to make throughout today's presentation. Please do that. This is how we connect with one another during events like this. So please make that happen. You can also drop questions if you have questions throughout the presentation today. Drop those in the box, and our career advocates, as well as Pat Kuehl, our operations director, will be also monitoring that box. So again, engage with each other. That's part of the value of this project and this program. So at this point, I do want to recognize the career advocates that are on today's call. So if you will, if you are a career advocate representing your college campus, if you'll just turn your camera on now and join us and take just a few minutes to introduce yourself. I know I saw a couple. As you all know, college students are very busy, and so we know that some have conflicts here and there, so want to make sure that we acknowledge them. Though, Leanne, I did see you, I think, and Michael Alford.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leanne Turigny, for those of you who don't know me. I'm currently a first-year master's student at UNC Charlotte. I'm in the psychology program, and I'm just super excited to be here and connect with you all. We have some pretty great speaker lined up for today, and we just encourage you to use the chat and really use this as a time to network with each other. Share where you're coming from and maybe like what you're hoping to get out of the program and today's session. Thank you all for joining today.
Thank you, Leanne. Michael,
and my name is, yes, ma'am. My name is Michael Alford. I am a freshman media design student here at North Carolina A&T, and also a career advocate here at North Carolina A&T as well. And I'm excited to connect with you guys. Make sure you guys engage in the chat. And yes, I'm ready. I'm excited. Yep.
Thanks, Michael. Anybody else? Micah, are you with us? Or Janila? I don't know if you guys have seen her in the. I think she may have actually. She's got something. Janila is actually a senior, so she is on the countdown. And I think she actually had a meeting this afternoon, so she may join us a little later. So, but thank you all so much for your participation in this. So next up, one of the things I wanted to do is just a reminder. Let me see if I can make technology work for me. All right, let me go grab this very quickly. Many of you are already in the process of working with your mentors or mentees. And as a reminder, I want to encourage you to use the mentor program guide. So you should have received this with the email that introduced you to your mentor, your mentee. Again, this is an opportunity for you to use this document to capture the the information and the conversation, and just guide you with in conversations with your mentor or your mentee. And so if you would complete these documents as you hold your sessions. And I know I've been getting several in, so thank you for that. But this just gives us some guidance and information as we continue to build out this program. So you'll see this is the mentee and the questions and information here. So again, just a reminder, if for some reason you do not have this document, please reach out either to your career advocate and or directly to myself at beth@di-nc.org, and we'll make sure that you get this document. All right. And with that, I am going to bring this back up again. And at this point, I am very, very excited to introduce our guest speaker today, John Robinson, who is President and CEO of Our Abilities. And he is the founder of the Our Abilities job portal, which you're going to hear a lot about today. But I hope that you also hear a little bit about John's story. John was a student just like you are. So he's got real live experience around navigating disability on a college campus. He has a heart, I know, and a passion for reducing the unemployment rate among people with disabilities, because like myself, right, he knows what those barriers feel like even after you achieve your college degree. And so he is very, very equipped to share with you again the importance of the development of tools for your job search and for your career management as you think about what your career path is going to look like past college. And so, John, it is a pleasure to have you with us. And I know Mary Beth has also joined us as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you all, and you guys can introduce yourselves, and we're looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Beth. It's great to be here. I'm going to tell my story a little bit. I'm going to show Jobsability. I'm going to keep my camera on for as long as I can until I freeze. I am 54 years old, white male, brush cut, sitting in front of an empty bookcase. My house is in disarray right now. The whole downstairs is being painted right at this minute. So you're going to get anything really in the next 45 minutes. Anything could happen. Next to me, to my right, is my assistant. He's an 11-year-old Labrador Retriever who will bark at any moment. So this is my life right now. Normally, I'd be in my office with a nice big setting and a big computer, and everything would be perfect. But being disabled really means life doesn't always treat you perfectly. So this is a good microcosm of everything that we're going to talk about. I am a quadruple amputee, 3'8" tall, born without the extension of my arms and my legs. And that's the beginning of the story of what Our Ability is and why we do what we do. And I will share that with you for a minute. My role with Our Ability is to sort of set the path. And a big part of the path is to help lower the unemployment rate for individuals with disabilities from the 65 to 70% that it is right now. And so everything that we do is to communicate between and to build a bridge of communication between people with disabilities, colleges, community colleges, universities, etc., that educate multiple people with disabilities, disability service providers that support, and most importantly, corporate America, where the jobs are, where the products are being built, etc. And so we're trying to build a better communication between the two. I will explain all of that, but before I do that, I'll introduce Mary Beth Schneider. Mary Beth is on our staff, somebody I've known for a long time. Mary Beth's role is to support all of your colleges, students with disability, anybody with a disability to learn what we do and to get into our system. So Mary Beth, I'll let you say hello for a minute.
I think that was a pretty good description. It's really nice to meet everyone. I've been in the field of working with people with disabilities for many years, and have always been finding myself coming back to employment issues for people with disabilities. So I'm really pleased to be on the staff at Our Ability, and I'm hoping to be a resource for you all.
And Mary Beth is underselling her ability to assist you and to her knowledge in the disability space. But it's really important for us to have people that are knowledgeable, and we're really lucky as a small business. We have some great people behind us, and so I'll share some of their knowledge in a little while. As I mentioned, I'm 54. I lived the disability experience, and there's no way around it. And a big part of why we do what we do is because of the personal experience that we share. If you think about disability studies, if you think about the disability perspective, at the end of the day, it's storytelling. It's telling the stories of who we are yesterday as people with disabilities, today as people with disabilities, and where we want to go tomorrow. And that's really what this is about. Because if we can share stories with one another about the human experience of disability, then we can create a better world for ourselves. And that is so important. When I was in high school in the 80s, I just wanted to be involved in sports. That's all I ever wanted. And so my vocational rehabilitational counselor was really the first person in my life, other than family members, that asked me what I wanted to do. And I said I wanted to get involved in sports. And so that man started me on the path. He asked me practically how realistic was it for me to be involved in sports without arms and legs and 3'8". And I thought he was saying I couldn't do it. And what he was doing was changing my paradigm. He was showing me how I could do it. And he asked me a question of how did I take in sports? And in the 80s, it was, I read newspapers, I listened to radio, and I watched TV. And so once I pointed that out, he nodded his head and he said, well, you can always be involved in sports through the media industry. And so he started me on the path of media. I went to Syracuse University to study television, radio, film. And I had a great 4 years of my experience in Syracuse, met some of the very best friends in my life that I'll ever have. And 4 of the 8 of us that lived together for the 4 years, there were 8 of us, and ultimately a dog as well. 4 of us were in the same program. We studied television, radio, film management at the Newhouse School. So if any of you follow sports at all now, we were classmates with Mike Tirico, Sean McDonough, Ian Eagle, some of the people that you hear on TV, but there were so many other of us that were behind the scenes in media industry. And we're all in the same program. Dave, one of my college roommates, one of my best friends in life, and actually co-wrote my autobiography about 11 years ago. Dave got a job immediately upon graduation in the golf industry. And he was the sports editor for the newspaper in Syracuse, and now has been in the golf media business for over 30 plus years. Jim, another roommate of ours, was also working at the newspaper. He got a job immediately with a Newark, New Jersey newspaper in sports, and went on to Ann Arbor, Michigan to cover the University of Michigan, and then went on to get his law degree, and now is an assistant district attorney for the United States government in Michigan. And Pat, the third of the 4 of us, had an internship all the way through college at the NBA, National Basketball Association, and got a job immediately with the NBA. And now today he runs NFL Films. So if you watch Hard Knocks, or if you watch any football video, his name's on there. So these are the roommates and the peers that I had in the media industry. And then there was me with the same GPA, same interests, same ability, same internship at a TV station in Boston. I graduated in 1990, May of 1990. And if you think about the ADA being signed in July of 1990, I was unemployed. I was unemployed for 4.5 years. I had interviewed at TV stations and radio stations all over the Northeast of the United States, into Southern Canada. And I heard the same answer every time, which was no. I had counted it up at one point. I had 25-second interviews in person at the same TV station or radio station. So think about that. 25 times I went for the second time to hear that, that this opportunity wasn't going to be for me. So learned a lot about myself in the 4.5 years of being unemployed. And one of the things that I learned was that, the experience of employment is different for us as people with disabilities. That certainly was true in 1990 through the end of 1994. It's still true today in 2023, albeit somewhat differently. And the genesis of our ability as a company is the lived experience of 4.5 years asking for a job, being told they couldn't get a job. In that period of time, getting married, starting a family, deciding where to live, all while interviewing with TV stations. I ultimately took a job in December of 1994 at an NBC affiliate in Syracuse, ironically, right back where I went to college. And so that started my career. And I had some ups and downs. I was a very strong salesperson, did very well, made a lot of money, but repeatedly was turned down for advancement and employment. And so these are the perspectives that I come to. If you're a person with a disability, invisible disability or visible disability, developmental, physical, veteran, intellectual, it doesn't matter. What matters is the perspective that we have and what we bring to the table in employment. And so that's what our ability as a company is tackling today. I had a great 16-year career at TV. Met some of the very best, friends of my life in this experience as well. But somewhere around middle age, I realized I wanted to do more. In that time, looking quite different, I would get asked repeatedly to come speak, and so the speeches got a little bit bigger each time. Was invited out to Redmond, Washington to speak at Microsoft, Atlanta, Georgia to speak at Aflac. Went to Charlotte to Bank of America, and so met some great people and realized that I wasn't alone, that as a person with a disability and a visible disability, that when I shared I was unemployed for all that time, the very few other people in corporate America in 2008, 2009, 2010 that I would speak at would nod their heads that they had somewhat similar experience. And so I came home one day and said to my wife, I wanted to quit my pretty good paying job and wanted to start a company. Originally, what our ability was going to be was a mentor network, that we would help the next generation of students and young people with disabilities find their path through stories. I mentioned at the beginning, storytelling is really the true definition of the disability experience. And so I believed that then, and we had created video stories of some successful people with disabilities mentoring younger people. What happened was the companies that I'd speak at wanted to post jobs on our website, and the young people that we were mentoring would ask us, hey, can you help me find a job? And so it became somewhat transactional. Instead of producing video stories of people who were successful, we ended up showing postings of jobs that needed to be filled, and we ended up getting emails all day long from people with disabilities wanting to find a job. And so about 8 years ago, our ability pivoted into being a jobs board, and that's what we started to create. We created ourability.jobs. You can find it today, and I'll show it to you in a minute. Ourability.jobs are the jobs that we have up there. And then we started taking resumes, and before I knew it, we were building a very simple source for people to upload their resume. And then a lot of things happened at the same time. And in business, and you'll all learn this as you age through your career, when something comes to you, you have to be able to listen and to pivot. We received a phone call from Syracuse University asking us if we could use 8 students, capstone students, to work on, quote, a project, end quote. Project was up to me. And I thought that was pretty neat. I didn't really know what to do with 8 students, but I thought about it for a long time and realized, okay, what I'd like to do is to create a better way to match people to positions. Go back to what my counselor said in high school, what do you want to do? It's fundamentally what I've always believed, that if we as people with disabilities are asked, what do we want to do? What can we do? We have a better outcome at the end. Traditionally, voc rehab, providers, et cetera, have placed us where it's easy to place. But I've always believed that we all have ability to do something. We all have an interest to do something. And when we match our interests and skills in alignment with job descriptions, we can do a better job. So when Syracuse said, here's 8 students, code something, we started thinking about where we were in technology 4 years ago. Where was IBM Watson and what they were creating with their AI? Where was Microsoft and what could we do? Microsoft then heard about what we were doing, gave us a grant to begin the process. And so what we created, or what we wanted to create when Microsoft reached out to us with those students at Syracuse, was an artificial intelligence driven engine that did a better job in matching people to open positions. While all that was going on, and we had created our jobs board, which was already out there publicly, we had our friends in the disability community in regional pockets around the United States and Canada, like me, trying to help the community. And so we reached out to our friends and said, hey, we've got this jobs board. We'd like to work with you on it. And Disability in North Carolina and Beth and Miss Pat were part of that. And so we're grateful for that and excited about that. So we've been working with Disability in North Carolina for years. We want to continue to do that. We're also working with Center for Disability Inclusion in the Midwest. We're working with Ontario Disability Employment Network in Canada, Work Without Limits all throughout New England. We're here in New York, Virginia Ability in Virginia, and Disability in Minnesota. And so we're working with groups of like-minded business partners to bring our job system out to the marketplace. And so we're really excited about that. What is it? And I know there's a couple questions here in the chat bot, which I'll come back to in a minute. What is it? Is Jobsability, which is a portal. Jobsability is the system that we have, that we built with that time of students and the investment from Microsoft. And we've got it to market. So I'm trying to move my screen around a little bit. It begins, in your case, with Disability in North Carolina or ourability.com. It doesn't matter. You come to di-nc.org and you see the information from Disability in North Carolina. And if you scroll down, you get to the Jobsability portal. And what you're going to see is 2 things simultaneously. One are the latest job descriptions in North Carolina that have just populated through our site. And 2, you're going to see Abby the chatbot. Abby the chatbot is part of what we developed when we started our AI experience. We wanted to create a way to communicate with our community in a better way. And it was always my belief that if you're my age, 54, you're going to log in and sign into things. I watch my kids work on things and they interact in a different way. So we wanted to give people 2 ways to interact, 1 with the chatbot or 2 to log in. And so I'm going to show you that in a minute on how to interact with Jobsability, either with Abby or by logging in. But I'm going to start with the jobs board. I mentioned to you at the very beginning that companies were asking us to post jobs. Ourability.jobs has been around now for about 8 years. We're really proud of that. We've got companies all over North America posting jobs. I think right now, I looked this morning, it was like 74,000 jobs are in the system. There are 74,000 jobs around that we work with or our partners work with, and that's really important. You can find us, it's public. We get a lot of Google hits. So if you're looking for a job, these are the public jobs here on ourability.jobs. Why that's important is if you're going to log in to Jobsability, why does that matter? Now, here we are with Jobsability. And I'm moving my screen around a little bit. Again, Abby, the same chatbot that lives on Disability in North Carolina, lives on Jobsability, lives on other sites. And so we're trying to make it very easy for people to look for a job. You can either interact with Abby here, or you can log in if you're old fashioned like I am, and I'm going to be old fashioned and log in. So bear with me. You come into the Jobsability portal, and what did I do? There. You come into the Jobsability portal, and the first thing you're going to be asked is, do I want to sign up now? You know what? I'm going to stop my cameras. I think I'm running too much RAM here. The first thing you're going to be asked is to sign up. And so it's really important that we get to know who you are. The sign up now button is under sign in. We want you to come here, and this is the beginning of the experience. Now remember, we're trying to help people with disabilities match their abilities, skills, and interests and job history to real jobs today. To do that, companies post jobs, and that's public and it's automatic. But you privately are going to sign up now and begin your experience. When you sign up now, you're going to put your email address in. You're going to put a suggested password. We're going to email you a code, and you're going to be approved and to come into the system. Once you come into Jobsability as a candidate, that's where the experience begins. First and foremost, we're going to pop up with a notice that's going to say you can complete your profile in one of two ways. One, you can interact with Abby, the chatbot. Two, you could click on complete profile if you prefer to do it that way. The reason being, we understand fully that people with disabilities have different lived experiences, different abilities, even though I hate that term, but different abilities in how to navigate the web. And so, yes, you can come down here and activate Abby, the chatbot. The chatbot will pop up and you can answer Abby's questions. Or if not, you can click complete profile and you can do it this way. When you're working on your profile, either with Abby or in the section here, I don't know how do you minimize this top thing? I'm trying to minimize Zoom. Zoom is in my way. Well, it's just going to be that way. There, well, of course, you can't see that, can you?
Are you talking about the bar that shows up at the top?
Yeah, that bar is in my way. Here, I got rid of it
You
for a
can
second.
usually like grab it and drag it to the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, God bless you for saying that. I'm old. It's not going to happen. I don't know how to do it. All right, I'm going back. Wish me luck. Here we go. Okay, so 3 things that we need to be able to do. 1, fill out personal information. So the first tab, again, either you're an Abby or you're a complete profile. We need to know who you are. We've already got your email address because you gave it to us, but first and last name, you can upload a photo if you so choose. But really, where are you looking for a job? Now, notice I'm not asking, I mean, I did it, but you don't have to put in exactly a street number, but we need the street and city state of where you are. That way Microsoft validates where your location is. And then we ask you a question, are you willing to relocate or not, looking for a job? This matters. So if you're living in Greensboro and you're looking for a job in Greensboro, you're probably going to only navigate 10, 20 miles to get to your job. And so we're thinking about that in the process. But if you've clicked, you're willing to relocate, then we're gonna make that a change in the algorithm. If you click next, then you're going to go to background. This is the beginning of the experience. Again, my VR counselor, Jack Smith, said, what do you want to do? This is what we're asking you. Our first question is, what are you interested in working? What field are you interested in? We ask you to fill out ideal job. I want every candidate we work with as much information about you as possible. I put in keywords here: sales engineer, nurse, doctor, teaching, food, whatever. I want you to fill out full sentences, things that you want to do. This is the place where I worked on Adobe Premiere for 3 years at my college TV station. I wrote and copy edited for my school newspaper. I was a project manager on a website for my sorority fraternity, right? These are things that we need to know about you because we're taking out those keywords that really fill out your profile, really round out who you are. And then that's what we start building your profile upon. The second element is skills. We ask you to type in one-off skills. What can you do? Communication, project management, Microsoft Office. These are things that really enhance your resume, but we lead with it. What can you do? It becomes so vital. Then we do ask you your degrees. What degrees have you accomplished with dates? We do ask your credentialing, and we ask you employment history. And off to the right, which I can't see, but I think you probably can, is a button that allows you to add your employment history, credentials, and education. It's really important. You'll notice employment history is last, or second to last. That is purposeful. I've always believed one of the reasons we're underemployed is because companies have looked at us only based upon our past work history when we're disabled. It's really important that we lean into interest, skills, and ability before we lean into past work history. But you will put all that information in. It becomes part of who you are. We do ask you accommodation questions. Now, our ability will never ask you what your disability is. It's not none of our business. If you disclose it, that's your disclosure. We don't even ask you if you are disabled. What we are asking you is to think about what you might need if you are accepting a position. Now, we do not share this part with anybody. This is a tool for you to use to think about who you are as you're interviewing with businesses. And then ultimately, the third tab here is abilities and preferences. And again, it's another skill assessment. It's another way for us to get you thinking about what you can do. And you come down through each of these upside down triangles and you fill out the answers. And again, if you've gone through Abby as the way to ingest the information, then Abby will take all that in. When you're doing that, what you are doing is completing a profile. And the profile becomes really important as far as the snapshot of who you are and what your ability is. When you come back to your dashboard, this is where sort of the magic happens. So let's say you've worked on your profile, you've done 25%, you log out, you come back in tomorrow, and here you are in your dashboard. And now you're going to start to see that the jobs are populating. There's two sliders of what the jobs are: recommended jobs for you and remote recommended jobs for you. And this is important. And so where do we get these jobs from? These are our jobs from our ability.jobs that we are using for our purposes publicly for anybody to find, but privately for any of those of us that are in the system. We've got jobs in here that what we're doing is we're reading every job description in real time, all 73,000 jobs in real time. We're reading your profile in real time, and we're making a match between the two so that as you come in here, it's doing the job search for you, and all you have to do is go to apply. So what we want to be able to do is have you do your information, have us use our system, keep coming back, seeing how the jobs have been refreshed, and apply or save the job as you so choose. When you click apply, you immediately leave our system. You've gone off into the performance group system. So our connections in these companies know that we have a way to track where people are going up until this point. And so we know when you've clicked apply, and we want to help you with that. A couple of other quick elements. You can always refer back and look at your profile as I showed you a minute ago. You can always click the jobs tab. It's going to take a minute to load here, but it loads all of the jobs. And that becomes, what becomes important about that is that you can search the jobs in here. So just like you can search jobs up here publicly, and if you want to put in sales, you can do it inside the system as well. I keep losing where I'm going. Again, my RAM is problematic right at this moment. And so the final place here on our side dashboard is we've got some training modules. So we built with some of our partners, if you want to have a training module on building your resume or disclosure and accommodation, which just came up a minute ago, we've got training modules inside the Jobsability portal so that we can help you. The final element here is we do have a way to have individuals get assistance. And so if you are working with a job coach externally, great. If you want to work with somebody here at Our Ability, you put in your information here and you click get approved, and away you go. And more than likely it'll be Mary Beth or I that will help you. So these are the elements that we have inside the system with Jobsability to support your experience. And again, the most important place here of all is the dashboard, where you can see the jobs that are recommended to you. Now I'm going to take a breath, and I think there was a question or two, and I'd be happy to answer them. I'll even turn my camera back on.
Thank you, John. Awesome.
You're welcome.
Awesome stuff. Super excited about what this brings to, well, to our students, right? I love the creativity and the innovativeness that you used in developing this. And you're absolutely right. I think work experience is the one thing that kind of, you know, we get tripped up on as individuals, especially as they launch into their careers. So yeah, it makes so much sense. I'm going to pause as well. Pat, are there questions in the chat box? Because I don't have access to that right at the moment. And if you have a question, if you want to unmute yourself and just ask it, let's have a conversation here. I'm fine with that.
Nils has one there. I can read it if he wants me to. What are your thoughts on disclosing one's disability, particularly if it's invisible? It's really key. It's key for you personally to come to a decision. It's not my opinion. I will give you my opinion in a second, but it's where your comfort level is. But I would say this: 71% of disabilities are invisible, and that's a stat that a lot of the businesses don't know. And so it's something that we at Our Ability and Disability in North Carolina work with the business partners that we have to understand what is in the breadth of disability. In my personal experience, if you think about the late 80s, early 90s, I was writing letters. They weren't seeing me. There was no social media. So even I had a disclosure conversation with myself in the letter writing that I was doing. And the more open I was about being a quad amputee at 3'9", the better I felt about myself. I think what I've seen in this capacity is, Nils, whenever you or anybody else are at the level that they're comfortable to disclose, that's when you feel better about who you are. One of the things that we work on with businesses is making sure they are welcoming to anybody, and because they want everybody in their employment to feel like they can bring their whole selves to work. If you're hiding something, then you're not going to bring your whole emotional confidence to the table. And so it's my personal opinion, I became a better applicant when I started to disclose. But I will never tell you what to do. You have to come to that in your own way, in your own time, and when you feel it's appropriate. Disclosing isn't going to stop discrimination. What it will do is it will help you feel better about the scenario. And it really became obvious to me, I wanted to be where I was welcome. And I was obviously not welcome when I wasn't hired. And I realized that as I became more comfortable with who I am in the interview process and in the applicant process, that is why it ultimately worked. That I was walking in with confidence because they knew I was obviously disabled, and they ultimately offered me a job. So I think disclosure is extremely personal. Again, we as a company don't ask you one way or the other. If you share it with us, great. But what we're trying to do is to tell the business, focus on what somebody can do in the job function, not what their disability is. And that's what's really important around this conversation.
John, thank you. This is Peter Papilonio. Can you hear me?
I can, Peter. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you. Very informative. One of our sons has been diagnosed with a lifetime disability, and he was diagnosed as being mentally retarded around 7 or 8, and he just graduated the University of South Carolina last year. So the Carolina Life is a national program, and I hope you're familiar with that, where they provided accommodations for Christian and other kids in the Carolina Life program at USC, Clemson, Vanderbilt, whatever. So we used those accommodations, and they did a really great job in helping get through all the courses, the graduate courses, life school courses for the 4 years he was at USC. They helped in resume writing, basically one resume, interview skills. But what you're providing is the next big step or chapter in that, and they don't provide that. So everything thereafter is on the individual parent. And so several of us parents have gotten together and we're looking at programs like this to develop them. So I'm going to actually guide them toward you, John, for what they're doing and what you've already established. But have you ever worked with universities, colleges, and the Carolina Life program? Because this is a big mistake, and it's an important one in their offerings.
Yeah, Peter, there's a lot of answers to your question. So first and foremost, we would love the introduction to Carolina Life, and it's not me that you want to introduce, it's Mary Beth. And I think Mary Beth put her information in the chat bot earlier. So I would urge you to, you know, to make an introduction to them and to Mary Beth and I simultaneously. We would love to work cooperatively and collaboratively with Beth as well to help and assist. We do work. So I've spent so much time trying to build the communication path between these two entities. Now we're at the point that the work needs to begin. And when I say needs to begin, we've been doing this all along, but Mary Beth's role is to do exactly that, is to liaise with community colleges, university, parent groups, disability groups, VR programs, etc. Multiple groups of people that represent people with disabilities that want jobs. Again, Peter, I cannot stop the discrimination. What I can do is put your child's resume in their best light, the child's ability in their best light, and put it in front of businesses to open the businesses' eyes that there are people out there that can do it. The difference in 2023 from 1993 was businesses actually do want employees. So we're in a better place. But what I would say is I've always felt there needs to be this work, this support, and that's why we built it. Now we need to bring the right parties together through the technology to be able to have the outcomes. And that's where we need to go. It takes you as a parent, you as an advocate, it takes people with disabilities directly, and it takes companies. And we think we brought the parties together technically and want to continue to do that. But the introduction is with us, with Mary Beth. Please do that. And we would love to continue those conversations.
Yeah, and even though Christian graduated, he's now living in Columbia. He graduated in sports management. He's doing some part-time work with the athletic department, football and basketball teams down there, and the YMCA. But there's still all the other kids behind him that I know their families too. So Mary Beth, we could do that at the local level and at the national level with Carolina Life. And I think that would be a big plus. Justin Francis, Beth, and you introduced us. So he and I connected yesterday, and starting down that path where I would like to be and stay actively engaged with in any capacity that I can help, and which benefits our kids.
So this is Pat Kuehl with Disability in North Carolina. I'm the operations director, and I'm going to do a shout out that I want you all to pay close attention to. For too long, we have been reinventing the wheel over and over again. We think, oh, if we get another website up, or if we get another job matching portal up, this will help, right? We need to get behind what John's doing. John already has the wind behind his sails. He already has big investors on this, and he has huge companies, not just here in the United States, but internationally. And they are coming to him saying, we'd like this to be our go-to source for finding this pipeline. What we have to do as advocates, stakeholders, and people with disabilities is we've got to post our profiles, and we've got to make it the place to go. Rather than reinventing other smaller and watering down this effort. If we do that, we will become the Indeed of job postings for individuals with disabilities, and we will become the trusted resource, and then spend our energy on bringing the candidates in, helping them to post credible profiles, and making this something really useful to companies large and small, so that they will look at it as the go-to resource. So I'm putting in the plug for you, for yourself, John.
Pat, you're the best. Thank you. And that is what we want to do. So I'm gonna toot our horn a little bit here. Our chief technology officer comes from Microsoft. He had a choice to go anywhere, and he asked to come to. I didn't recruit him. He recruited me to hire him, because this is so important to us. Our system is a baby. We just built it, right? The vision of where we want to go is so cool. If you're following any of the national media around AI right now, about open chat and ChatGPT and what Google's trying to do, our AI is our own. We left Microsoft, we left AWS, we're building our own algorithm. In part because of what Pat just said, Indeed isn't asking you the right questions. LinkedIn is not interested in asking you the right questions. And the right questions are, what can you do? So I'm watching, so simultaneously, I'm reading what Shannon, Niels, and I think it's Rhonda are debating right now in the chat about disclosing their disability. By the way, I love it. Keep debating it. It's a debate that will go on forever. Let me give you my 2 cents. The only tweak I would make in your debate is if you're worried about disclosing, you're not thinking about performing the job.
Yes.
If you're not thinking about performing the job, the business is going to hear that. And so worry a little bit less about disclosing and answer the questions, every question pointedly, about how you're going to do the job. Example, Kartik, our chief technology officer, is a coder, AI coder. He's 100% blind. I didn't ask him what accommodation he needs. I asked him, how are you going to do the job? In his answer is how he's going to do the job. Now, of course, I'm going to give him an accommodation. But what I wanted to hear is what job is he going to do, right? Same thing with me. That TV station in 1994 just wanted to know that I was going to make them money, right? How am I going to make them money? So I love your debate, but your debate is a little bit off kilter.
Yeah, that's actually the point that I was going to make, John. That's why it was getting too much. And this is Rhonda agreeing with vocational rehab. The point I was going to make, what I was trying to make in the chat, and it's hard to do in a chat, is there's a difference between the question on an application that says, do you have a disability? And you can answer yes, no, or I choose not to answer, and then disclosing it in an interview.
Yeah.
I try to follow, when I give advice to my job seekers with disabilities, I try to follow Richard Pimentel's advice, which is in the interview, if it's a visible disability and you think the employer might question how you're going to do the job, go ahead and disclose and volunteer to them how you're going to be able to do the job. Take their questions off of the table. If you have an invisible disability and you are not going to need an accommodation, then there's no reason to disclose the disability. If it's an invisible disability and you're not sure if you're going to need an accommodation or not, then maybe wait until you have the job offer before you disclose and ask for an accommodation. But on the application itself, I think it's important that people with disabilities, if you're comfortable doing it, go ahead and answer it as yes, you have a disability, because a lot of that is how employers are keeping track of how many people with disabilities are or are not being hired. And it's going to be hard for them to know if they're discriminating, the entities that are, keeping track of things like the OFCCP. If people say they choose not to answer, or they answer no when they really do have a disability, it's going to be hard for them to know whether people with disabilities are or are not being hired at a certain company.
Yep.
So that's
So,
why
Rhonda-
my advice is usually answer yes on the application, because you never then have to tell them what the disability is. You're just identifying yourself as a person with a disability.
Yeah, I applaud that. And Richard, I've worked with Richard Pimentel quite a bit, so I agree with you. Again, Richard and I are old, right? So, 25-year-olds are going to think a lot differently than 50 plus. So let's call that what that is. But I think you can check yes or no, or answer later on that box. Rhonda's right about one thing, and I think this is really important for the young people in this group. What's different in 2023 from 1993, I was applying to CNN, which was owned by Turner Broadcasting, CBS, NBC. Then there were no requirements then in 93, because in 2013, the enhancements to Section 503 of the Rehabilitation Act were enacted, and federal contractors need to be working towards 7%. I get a job now if it were that case. So one, it's to your advantage at certain times to check the yes, where it wasn't the advantage before. But I will tell you, focus on what you can do.
That's right.
You won't lose if you do that. And
Right,
if you can
right.
do that, it's to your advantage. And we say the same and opposite to the business. If somebody wheels into an interview in a wheelchair, don't look at the chair. Ask them how they're going to perform the job, right? What job? Here's the job that we have. Can you do the job? How are you going to do the job? What's your ability to do the job? If you do that, everybody's in a safe place, and we get beyond some of the traditional nonsense.
Dances, yeah.
But I want to make one more point. Don't miss this. The businesses are paying money to access our Ability Jobs portal. That means they value it so much that they will pay to source from it and pay to post their jobs on it. So they clearly are looking for this talent. It's not a mystery. We want to hire people with disabilities.
Right.
So it's a blue ocean. You're not watered down by being on. I'm not saying don't put your thing on Indeed, but it's a watering down process. Okay. If you put your profile here, and if we truly come together as a community and really build a rich profile with thousands and thousands of people on here, then we will fulfill the promise that business is paying to achieve. And you won't have to worry about the disclosure question because it's already out there. That's why you're on this pipeline.
100%. One thing I will offer. One thing I'll offer everybody. I see a lot of cameras off and I see a lot of microphones muted. You always are welcome to contact us directly. Please, please, please. If you are thinking about something and you want to have us help you go through your profile, if you want to ask questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to either Mary Beth or I, and we'd be happy to answer them. The other thing I want to share with you, just as we're coming up on the hour, is this. We're not stopping at our ability with our portal. If you noticed on the job descriptions on ourability.jobs or inside the portal itself, there was a little ably green check mark. We're starting to build an ableist language detector. And the purpose of the ableist language detector is to help companies remove ableist language from their job descriptions at the front end. Why that's important is the companies, to Pat's point, are paying us to do this. They want to make sure they're not discriminating against our community before the job description even goes out the door. So we're building an ableist language filter that ultimately we hope everybody uses to remove hurtful language. We're also helping build a technology to make sure PDF documents are completely accessible. So we're doing that under the Ably banner just here in a little while, so that colleges, universities, lawyers, banks, etc., that their PDFs are checked for the blind and neurodiverse community beforehand. It is extremely important that we build technical pathways between you and Pfizer, between CVS Health and me. That's why we have to do this. And it's not a simple path. Much like the disability experience, it's varied, it's challenging, but when we do it right, that's when it becomes successful. I'll leave my comments on one thing. My number one asset as a 20-year-old coming out of college, as a 54-year-old business owner, I'm a problem solver. Being a person with a disability in an able-bodied world has taught me how to be a problem solver. Problem solving is your number one asset in applying to a job. Lean into it. That's how you answer questions, because that's all a business really wants. They want the next hire to solve a problem. If you think about that, that's all it is. I don't care what job, what business it is. If you're the 15th nurse on the floor, guess what? They have a problem because 14 isn't enough. Lean into it. As a person with a disability, you're a problem solver. That's how you're going to get respect and how you're going to get an opportunity. And so that's what I've learned along in this experience.
Well, John,
This is Shannon Moore.
yes, Shannon, go ahead.
Do I have time?
You do. Go
Yes.
ahead, Shannon.
Okay. So I work for BASF, which is a global chemical company, and I am the chairperson for our employee resource group for people with disabilities. I personally have an invisible disability, so I can relate to Nils. And we are starting to post jobs to your portal. So I'm really glad that I had the chance to see this and to see what it was all about, because I wasn't on the call with the talent team. But I can tell you that when you apply to a job at BASF, it goes to it's looking for keywords. It's a bot. It's not a human that's looking at these initial applications. So when you apply, and this is how most large corporations are, it doesn't matter if you check that box that you have a disability or not. But once you get into the interview, you can share whatever you want. If you have a visible disability, you can do what the folks here were already saying. But if you have an invisible disability, it gives you an opportunity to feel that company out and ask them questions. You know, what is your accommodations process? You know, and there may be a better way to word it, but there are ways of finding out what the company has to offer. I can tell you that BASF has excellent benefits for people who have disabilities. And so I encourage all of you students to look at our jobs. We have jobs in all different fields of science and business, technology. It's a great company to work for. But then once you're hired and offered a position, you have to fill out a whole new set of paperwork. And on that set of paperwork, you can check off the disability check, because now the company has a tally of who works for them with a disability, and they can get government funding to put toward more programming for their disabled population. Because 30% of us are disabled, but only 13% of us disclose that we have a disability. And so that's something that BASF that we're really trying to change. But I think my point is that the application is not as important as once you get in and you fill out all your tax forms and all those other forms that, you know, you apply for. So thanks. And this is a great portal. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Shannon. And we just set the jobs up. I think it was Monday. So I know that they're up and running, so which is great. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I appreciate it. And I'll echo what you just said. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we lean into interests and skills, because we know the keywords really matter when you know, it gets to your applicant tracking system. So it's important.
Well, and Shannon, thank you for your leadership internally, because it doesn't stop, like you said, it doesn't stop at the point of hire. And these employee resource groups and business resource groups within these companies, again, are a way to continue the transformational, you know, corporate cultural work that's happening, that makes it better for those that come after you and others. So again, it's a team effort. It's a holistic approach to disability inclusion, which is what we're about. So thank you, Shannon. Well, John, again, I appreciate it. I know we are at time. Wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for your continued grit. That's all I can say. I remember when you and I met, and I think it was out in Microsoft. I think it was in Seattle. We were at some event, it just, you know, it's about the stories. And I'm with you. You say you're 54, I'm 56, right? So, you know, we've been at this for a long time. But I love to see the progress, and your story continues to grow. And I'm thankful and grateful that we're able to be a part of that. So thank you for
right back at you, Beth. And I think we were at 18 when we met the first time all those years ago. So
like that. Thank you so much.
Hey, I know people can drop here. I wanted to chime in just as a BASF employee, and I actually very interested in your story, John, because I am in the audiovisual space and I've been using Adobe Premiere since the 90s. So it's you got me kind of thinking about a big question about I'd love to learn more about what software accessibilities are out there. And not only that, you know, I've 2 kids with disabilities, and I actually just hired a AV tech who has extremely low vision, macular degeneration, and he is my audio guy, and he does incredible stuff on video as well. And you know, I just want to say one thing on one of the reasons why I hired him was he showed me what he could do. Don't take that phrase for granted. I hired him as a contractor. He was in the kitchen, working in the kitchen, and these guys said, hey, if you need help around there, you know, have him come by, do your audio. And I had him come by a couple times. I'm like, you know, what do I have to do to hire him? And and I just saw how amazing it was. And he's forever grateful, because he just never has doesn't get the opportunity to show himself. So
yeah.
you know,
Chris, that's exactly the right thing to do. You hired somebody that can perform the job, and you saw some ability, and that's what it's all about. I'm not completely surprised at the story, because if you think about it, he's problem solved with his disability into a technical world, right? And so he's created a skill set because of, and that's to BASF's benefit down the road, right? And good for you, good for him, good for BASF. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of what we're doing. And I think we all need to do it. And to Pat's point, we all need to get together on it so that there's more of these success stories. It will be really helpful. And Chris, I would say to you offline, I love talking tech. So if you want to reach out and connect about software and about what I've done or what we're doing, hey, I'm all in on that. Please feel free to email.
Yeah, definitely, because I'm always wanting to learn more, you know, and about all that stuff, and tech is super cool. So thanks for sharing your story too, John.
You got
great, and we'll look forward to working with everybody.
Thank you, Chris. Great. Well, with that, and I don't want to stop this conversation. I really don't. I love it. And that's what this is about. So again, for those students that are on the line, get out there, set up your portal, set up your profiles, and let's get you employed. Let's get you it's just the opportunities now, I think, are just so incredibly unlimited. And you've got companies that are primed and ready. So do what you need to do, and we will help you with that. Talk to your mentor if you have a mentor. Make this part of your next conversation with them. So with that, I want to again thank Mary Beth, thank you, John, and thank you all for joining today's conversation. And our next session will be scheduled for April 5th. And so we will be sending out information on that same date, so April 5th from 3 to 4 p.m. And we will be sending information out on that. So again, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.